I'm Elisa Parker. We're broadcasting from the Wild and Scenic Film Festival 2019. It's the largest environmental film fest of its kind, and I'm thrilled to introduce Anna with the film Pursuing the Monarchs. The monarch butterflies actually travel thousands. How many miles do they travel,
Over
Anna?
2,000 miles.
Over 2,000 miles. So first, welcome to Wild and Scenic. It's good to have you here with us.
Very good to be
here.
here.
Yeah, it's your first time here at the festival.
Yes.
So give us a short premise around Pursuing the Monarchs, and what was your inspiration around creating this film?
So Pursuing the Monarchs is this sort of voyage that takes you from North America down all the way to Mexico, where the butterflies overwinter. And essentially it's looking at why is the monarch population dwindling in the past 20 years? I mean, we have an 80% decrease in this species in North America, and it's trying to figure out why. And so it takes you on this journey with a lot of interviews, a lot of scientific interviews, really, because I am scientifically trained. So that was important to me.
You mentioned last night that there are new stats out around the decrease in butterflies. It's really
horrible,
alarming.
Yeah. So it's CIRCES. It's this invertebrate conservation society that came out with those numbers a few days ago, I think 2 days ago. And it says that for every 160 monarch butterfly in the 1980s, we have one left today. So, yeah.
That's amazing. I mean, it's actually shocking. And what are some of the reasons behind this?
So that's what the film answers.
Right,
in a sense.
pursuing the reason. Right, and first too, you were figuring out where they're even going.
Exactly. So that has been found out in the 1970s. It was they sort of discovered the place where they were overwintering. Obviously, in Mexico, the people already know the butterflies were there, but they made the link that these butterflies were the same ones that people were seeing in North America migrating down. So that was already kind of, wow, first of all, how the hell do they make it back? You know, it's not even the same generation. The thing is, the monarchs rotate on a three to four generation cycle. And so if you think of the monarch that's in Mexico, that's their great-great-great-grandfather who was in Mexico before them, or grandmother, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
It's amazing, too, because it makes me think about, Anna, how that, you know, just in what we know within our DNA, the remembering and the knowing, it just made me think about even that correlation with us as human beings, knowing that the monarch butterflies are, like you said, what, at least three generations before they're
back in the same place.
Back in the same place. So, and the other area in watching the film Pursuing the Monarchs is the GMO corn.
Exactly.
Tell us a little bit about that, and you know, when we look at Roundup, Monsanto, and how that's affecting the butterfly population.
Right on. So I spent a lot of time in the Midwest for the film, especially in Iowa, and I was interviewing conventional farmers and interviewing organic farmers, trying to get both perspectives, because truly there's just so much information out there about GMOs that it gets confusing. Even the science behind it is really confusing, because you have papers that are, for example, funded by Monsanto, and you know, they have the right stats, but how do you know that's actually that they use the data in the right way, you know? So it's just, I wanted to find out my own answers. And I mean, what I found out is it's just sad, yeah. The milkweed, which is the plant that the monarch caterpillars feed on. It's literally the only plant they can feed on. So,
and it grows around corn.
Exactly. It used to grow mostly in agricultural fields. And so you would have them, spur out in those fields, in cornfields mostly, and soybean fields. But now most of those fields are sprayed with herbicide. So obviously the milkweed is dying off, and so the monarchs are dying off. That's part of the answer of the film, yeah.
Because there's no more milkweed, and there's no more monarchs.
And
it's crazy to see just the ripple effects on how doing just one thing in a positive way or in a negative way can have an impact.
The most enraging thing to me is that the corn and the soybean that's being grown in the Midwest is not used to feed people. It's used to feed cattle.
And they shouldn't be eating corn anyway.
In the first
they
place,
shouldn't even be eating corn.
Just,
the whole thing's a little messed up.
It is. I mean, it's not my personal food system because I'm originally French, but I spent a lot of times in the States, and the food system here is just, it's not going the right way.
It's messed up. We're messed up. So
yeah.
With Wild and Scenic Film Fest, we select a lot of films that, of course, are giving attention and amplification to some of our, some of our most dire issues right now. but we also look at solutions.
Right.
So what are some of the solutions to this, especially when it comes to supporting the monarch butterflies?
So there's a couple ways that you can help the monarchs, and I think helping the monarchs also means helping most of the pollinators that are in danger. I mean, most pollinators in the U.S.
Bees.
are in danger of not necessarily extinction, but definitely dwindling population numbers for sure. So the ways to go about it, first of all, if you have a garden, obviously you can plant milkweed and native plants. I think that's really important to have pollinator gardens throughout people's private homes. So that's one way to help. Another really obvious way to help, but that people are not usually willing to sacrifice, is just eating less meat. It's really not that hard. I'm personally vegetarian, and you have no idea how much I love meat. I really,
especially being
really,
French.
Yeah, I just love, my favorite meat is lamb, but I haven't eaten it in 3 years. You know, just making those sacrifices for the environment. I think the time has come for us to actually make sacrifices that we're not really happy making, but we have to make them for the environment to get just a little better. We are not headed the right way, and we have to find solutions that may be a little bit drastic, but yeah.
Part of the shift and the transition that we're all experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, some folks might be watching this and, of course, appreciating the beauty and the magnificence of these phenomenal, you know, insects, you know, looking at the monarch butterfly. Why is it so important, though? Like, when you look at our ecosystem, for folks to really take action around this and awareness and knowing why this is so important?
I think that question is a little hard. So you may wonder, like, why should I care about the monarchs? It's just one species. It's why should that matter? The way I think about it is sort of like losing part of our biological heritage, you know? Yeah, it doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't relatively matter if we lose the monarchs, but then we lose the bees, but then we lose this, you know? And it's sort of like ripping pictures off the wall, and then you're left with an empty museum. So what do you do with an empty museum? So I think caring for those flagship species is really easy because they're really beautiful. You know, you think of the monarchs, and they kind of have that heroic side to them. They fly 2,000 miles to get to Mexico, where in Mexico they're assailed by illegal loggers. You know, they just are getting it from all sides, but they're resisting, and I think we need to give them strength as much as we need to give strength to most of the animals that are out there.
Right.
All really.
You know, the other part too that that you feature in your film, Pursuing the Monarchs, and just looking at this one tiny little creature, how it has enhanced in the integration and community action within that area in Mexico, for example, to see how people are now taking intent, you know, being really intent on helping to save their forests. They're looking at ways to that can sustain their community financially. Looking at tourism, avocado trees. I thought that was funny because they're like Californians love avocados.
Yeah, there's this whole part about avocados, and what's important is that they're starting to have organic farms for avocados, and they used to not be organic, so they were spraying a bunch of pesticides in the forest really close to the butterfly. So now they're starting to realize that the butterflies can really provide a livelihood that could be sustainable if the population sustain and if they keep migrating. So people are really interested in conserving the monarchs. My
last question is, how has this changed your life in creating this film, Pursuing the Monarchs?
So it's my first feature film. I'm 22 years old, so it's kind of changed my life in a way that I know now that I have this sort of duty to the environment, that I'm pretty talented at making films. That's what I love, and if that's what I can bring to the environmental community, that's what I want to do with the rest of my life. So it has changed my life in the way that now I know I can do it, so now I can make a second one, I can make a third one, and hopefully bring about policy change, because I think that is what actually makes a difference in the end, is the change of policies.
Congratulations, Anna. Thanks
you.
for being here at Wild and Scenic. I'm Elisa Parker. It's the Wild and Scenic Film Fest. It's the largest environmental film fest of its kind in the United States, and we're celebrating 17 years. Thanks, Anna.
Congratulations. Thanks you.